Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm McKenna, and I'm the owner of Murder by the Book in Houston, Texas. I am here today presenting one of our great UK author afternoon events. We love having these on a 1 o'clock time, so it's kind of a nice break if you're able to tune in and watch our authors from overseas. We have a very, very busy event week this week. We have 6 events, including 12 authors. Tonight we'll be back with historical mystery writers Annalee Huber and Tessa Arlen at 7 o'clock. If you like, I know we have some people who specifically tune in for these 1 o'clock events. We'll be back on Friday with Carrie Barrett discussing The Smuggler's Daughter. But lots of events in between. Make sure to go to the website to see what the schedule holds. I also want to mention before introducing the authors that we do have a handful of signed copies of Invisible Girl left, the Lisa Jewell book. And we have signed book plates for the latest J.T. Ellison, Her Dark Lies. So if you're interested in ordering, as soon as I get them introduced, I'll pop a link in the comments with more information about all the books and the ability to order from there. Okay, so let's get started. Adele Parks is the #1 Sunday Times bestselling author of 20 novels, including Lies, 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 and Just My Luck. Sorry, my mouse didn't click. I was like, where is she? All right, moving on. As well as I Invited Her. Just My Luck is currently in development to be made into a movie. Her novels have sold 4 million copies in the UK alone, and her work has also been translated into 31 languages. And she's here today to discuss her new book, Just My Luck. Thanks so much for being back with us.
Absolute pleasure. This has become my little ritual now. I was here launch day last year and launch day this year. It's great.
Well, we're so glad to have you. It's an absolute treat. Okay, next up is Lisa Jewell, who was with you launch day last year. So another ritual, shall we say. How are you today, Lisa?
I'm great. I'm really good. How are you?
I am well, thank you. So Lisa Jewell is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of 18 novels, including The Family Upstairs and Then She Was Gone, as well as Watching You and I Found You. Her novels have sold more than 4.5 million copies, and her work has also been translated into 25 languages. As I said, her most recent book is Invisible Girl, and we do have a handful of signed copies left. All right, last but not least, J.T. Ellison. Hi.
Hi.
So J.T. Ellison is the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of more than 25 novels and the Emmy Award-winning co-host of the literary show A Word on Words. With millions of books in print, her work has won critical acclaim, prestigious awards, and been published in 28 countries. She lives in Nashville with her husband and twin kittens, and her latest book is Her Dark Lies. I will mention also, if you want to hear more, we're here today to celebrate the new book by Adele Parks, but we've also done specific events with JT and Lisa for their books. So those are on YouTube, and you can find them on our YouTube channel if you want to get even more after this talk. Okay, I'm going to leave it to them. Put your questions in the comments. If you're on Facebook, put your questions in live chat if you're on YouTube. And I will get those questions to the authors in about 30 minutes. You guys have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, I'm a huge fan of both of you. And when they came and said, hey, we have Adele and Lisa at an event, and would you be interested in moderating them? I couldn't reply. Email. And we was at lunch, and I was sitting with my husband, at lunch in our kitchen, a big exciting go to lunch every day. And I was like, oh! He goes, what? I said, they asked me to moderate Adele and Lisa. And he was like, oh, that's cool. Like, ding, ding. He goes, you can add one more thing to your schedule. I'm like, well, yes, I can. Yes, I can.
It's quite an honor to be interviewed by you. To be honest,
it's very mutual.
Yes, very
mutual admiration.
We're quite excited to be here together, I think.
Well, the exciting thing, Adele, it's release day for you. Congratulations on the new book.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Launch day. Apparently my husband was trying to send me flowers today to make it into, a launch day as though you were out and about. I'm also trying to combine them with being like color coordinated with the book cover. But the florist came back and went, oh, it's been a bank holiday. There are no flowers. Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Well, it's the thought that counts, right?
Apparently they're coming tomorrow. So
have you got champagne, Adele?
Not yet, but I will after this. You know.
Oh, good. Yeah, because it's evening. You guys can start drinking. I could start drinking now, but day drinking is frowned upon here because we're trying to still work the rest of the day.
Yes.
So, Adele, why don't you tell us a little bit about Just My Luck?
Yeah, okay, I will. So Just My Luck, this is it, is the story about three couples who have been friends for 15 years. Sort of those extremely tight friendship groups where you kind of mix up the boundaries. Their kids have all grown up together. They go on holidays together. They have various little rituals, you know, that they do on things like Christmas Day and New Year's Day, but one of their weekly rituals is they buy a lottery ticket as a syndicate every week, and they have the exact same numbers week after week after week. But we meet these three couples just after a fallout, and we don't know why they have fallen out, but we know that two of the couples have said, actually, the lottery is not for us. It's kind of beneath us and a bit common. But what the third couple, Lexi and Jake, hear is, you're kind of beneath us, you're a bit common. And they're devastated, they're really hurt, and they feel that their friends have outgrown them, and there's a lot of sort of emotions going on. But Lexi buys the ticket with the same 6 numbers the very next week anyhow. And the numbers come up and they win $23 million, which is an extraordinary amount of money, obviously. And it is about the lengths people will go to get what they consider their share of that money. So the other two couples clearly feel that they ought to have had some sort of stake in this, but legally they don't have a stake in it if they've walked away from the lottery. So it's about jealousy and betrayal and all the bad stuff that can happen once you've had a really great friendship, you know, because you've got to love a lot to hate a lot is, I think, where it nets out.
Do you play the lottery?
Do you know, I don't. I very occasionally.
Is that because it's common, Adele?
That's what I was wondering. You know, how common are you
guys? Apparently, you can do it online. Now I've heard.
I have a direct debit set up. I've got 3 lines every week.
Oh, maybe we should do the same numbers. Yes. I played it for a while when I launched this book in the UK. I was like, because it'd be really frustrating if the numbers came up and I haven't got a ticket. So I played the lottery numbers that come up that are in the book, and apparently loads of people are now, which I think is great. Loads of my fans are playing those numbers, and I know this because the idea came to me via another really, really good friend, and I've known him and his wife for like 30 odd years, more 30 years. And we were at somebody's birthday party, and I was like, oh, you've changed job, you're at the lottery company, how's that going? And he's the financial director, so the guy that gives that, you know, that enormous check. He's that guy. So he was telling me the stories, you know, sort of like the crazy fun stories, what people spend their money on, which we all want to know. What would you spend it on? And he was telling me about people who buy Lamborghinis or, you know, give it all to charity or whatever it might be, whatever extreme. But then just in passing, because they have a kind of duty of care here in the UK, the lottery company. And just in passing, he said to me, and of course, if it's a huge win, we, you know, set them up with financial advisors, tick, you'd expect that. And then he said, you know, and security and things, because we put the kids on a kidnap risk watch list. And I was like, sorry? Because I knew instantly that was the story, that from the moment you could have been told, look, you've just won $23 million and you think all your problems are over forever, you're actually just handed a whole new set of problems because you are suddenly at risk for all sorts of kind of violent crimes that you've never considered before. You are at risk for jealousy and loneliness and a whole different spectrum. And we were at this lunch, it was somebody's birthday lunch, and all I wanted to do at that point was leave and start writing. And I know I've known you 30 years, I've got to go. It was great.
That's when I'm like emailing myself and I'm like, excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom, and I'm writing my notes and stuff because just you don't want that to go away. But obviously all the best ideas stay. There was a paragraph that I read in this. It really kind of brought that home. I've been a lottery winner for 20 days. I had no idea how exhausting it would be negotiating other people's emotions, the envy, disbelief, incredulity. I constantly feel a degree or two warmer than usual as I absorb the heat of everyone's gaze. I just thought that really summed it up perfectly. Just well done.
Thank you. I talked to a lot of lottery winners, and it was really interesting because there was a little throwaway comment in the book that I did use that belonged to someone else. She said sort of everyone resented her the normal things. Like she had a neighbor who I can't remember which way it was. It either had rained and she sort of complained about the rain, and the neighbor turned around and said, well, you've nothing to complain about. And she was like,
you're never allowed to complain
I
again.
am making conversation about the weather. That's what we do. But I think it must be hard to negotiate. And then I met some strange, I talked to it's a really strange situation. Well, you say it's strange, who knows what's normal? But some people, the occasional people, they don't touch it. They never spend it. So they do the lottery, they win the lottery, and they leave the money in the bank. They don't do anything with it.
Do they live off the interest?
Not really. They don't touch it. I guess they're going to let someone else inherit it. But it was only I came across one person who did that, and it was just sort of like it was too overwhelming. They just didn't really know what to do with it. And there was another lovely story about this woman. She said, yes, I was in Marks and Spencer's, which is a really sort of ordinary Walmart kind of place. And she said, and I was looking at two jumpers, a blue and a green. And then I thought, I have 6 million in the bank. I could have both. And it was just this hilarious thought that she didn't, it hadn't like registered for her. And yeah, it was really fun. Until obviously in my book, it gets really dark and less fun.
Oh, it gets very dark and less fun, without a doubt. Did you know the end to the story, or was it organic as you were writing it?
No, I always know my ends. I have lots of ideas for books. I think we all do, don't we? I mean, look how many books we've all written between us. There's a lot, even if it's just the ones you manage to get out. But I probably have 5 to 10 ideas now before I pick the one I'm going to write. And I almost always know which one it's going to be, but I do play it out for quite a few months in my head, and I jot things down and I work out plots, because I have been in a position where, you've written 80,000 words and then thought, how's it going to end? And I know Lisa will tell you a totally different story to this, because Lisa does not need to know her ends and still manages to write completely flawless, brilliantly plotted books. But
I don't know what's going to happen in the next chapter, let alone the end of the book when I'm writing.
It's so funny. But I do always need to know where I'm going. I feel it's like a journey. I need to know where my end point is. It might convolute a little bit more, I might take a different route. I might take some B roads that I wasn't expecting, go down a dirt track I wasn't expecting. But on the whole, I know where I'm going to end up.
I love it. Lisa, because I don't. And Lisa, it sounds like you and I are kind of, we're very similar and very different, because people keep asking us the same question on Twitter, which is just really complete opposite answer every time.
Yes.
So Invisible Girl was spectacular. It's your best bet. I loved it. You just continue to get better and better as a storyteller, which, mad props. Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Yes, God, I've just got into such a slick spiel with this book, because I've been talking about it every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and now I haven't spoken about it for about a month, and I can't remember what to say. It's really weird. I've gone rusty.
Remember the character names: Owen, Sapphire.
Yeah. So it is essentially, it's about 3 people. It's about this creepy guy called Owen, who's 33 years old. He's a virgin. He's a bit odd. He lives with his aunt in her apartment, in her spare bedroom, on a lumpy single bed. And his aunt keeps all the doors locked in the apartment because she doesn't want him going around the apartment. She doesn't like him. And he's very lonely. And we meet him when he's just been suspended from his job as a lecturer at college for teenagers, for being sexually inappropriate at the Christmas disco, which he heartily refutes. And he lives opposite a family called the Fours. And there's Kate, who's a physiotherapist, her husband, Rowan, who's a child psychologist, and their teenagers, Joshua and Georgia. And right at the beginning of the story, Georgia comes home from the tube station freaking out because she thinks she's being followed by Owen and that he's got some bad intent. So from that point on, Kate and her family have got their beady eye on Owen. At the same time, lots of sexual assaults start happening in the area, and Kate is convinced that Owen's got something to do with it. The third character is a teenager called Sapphire Maddox. She's 17 years old, and she's a former patient of Rowan's. She was seeing him from the ages of 12 to 15 because she'd been self-harming. And then he signs her off. He says, "You're cured. You're ready to go out into the world." She doesn't agree with him. She feels cut off prematurely, and she starts following Rowan around and is therefore witness to an awful lot of strange things happening in Rowan's family. And she's a witness to Owen Pick, the strange guy across the street. And the whole thing really takes off when Sapphire Maddox goes missing from outside Kate and Rowan's flat, and the last person to see her alive was Owen Pick. It's a very, very convoluted book to try and describe in a elevator pitch. It really is.
That was great.
It was perfect, and it leads me into my next question, which this is a very elegantly structured book. And if you don't know the end, like Adele, how do you structure a book like this? Do you write everybody and then go back to it? How did you do that?
No, it's just I've kind of worked out how to explain this to people now. It's about like I'm setting, unlike Adele, I'm setting out into the woods with no map, no flashlight, no idea of where I'm going. And I just have to put things down as I'm walking through the woods, which I can then come back to. I have to be confident in everything I put on the page and think, I've written this. It feels random at the moment. I don't know what it means, and I don't know how it's going to impact the rest of the book, but I've written it, and therefore I've got to commit to it. And I've got to find a way to use this and make this make sense as part of the story. So I don't really rewrite anything. I just keep going and going and going and find a way to make everything that I've put on the page somehow. It just has to work. It just has to work, because I don't know what's going to happen in the next chapter.
I think the fun thing about being a writer is both ways of approaching it. It's still a puzzle, and that's the joy of it. We're sort of playing. Like, we're playing with ourselves, we're playing with the readers, because the plots, whether you sit and write it first or whether it happens all the way along, it is that fun of kind of going, oh, what could happen next? I love that moment.
Yes. And I think that's part of why I enjoy writing the way I write as well, because I'm almost having as much fun as the reader, because I'm just working it out. I'm a chapter ahead of the reader, basically, in terms of knowing what the hell's going on, or who's done what, or who's dodgy and who's not dodgy. And so I'm only ever a chapter ahead, so which does make the writing process quite satisfying.
Well, both of these books end on a reversal, right?
Oh, yes.
Love
a reversal ending.
Can you explain to folks what a reversal is and what the difference between a reversal is and a twist? And obviously, you've got to do it without giving anything away about your books.
Well, River, I've done them on my last 3 books. And it's because I don't put twists in my books, because I don't plan them. So I can't work my plot towards a twist because I don't know what's happening. So I get to the end of the book and I think, this could be working a bit harder. This is all tied up a bit neatly. This isn't going to give the reader anything to sort of take home and think about and worry about and wonder about. So it's just subverting something for the reader. It can be a tiny detail of the story, but just to put on those last few pages, a subversion of everything that the reader thought they knew about what they just read. That's what I would call a reverse ending. Is that what you would call a reverse ending?
Yeah, I think the thing about a twist quite often, because you see it all the time, you see it's a twisty-turny book. And I think, first of all, as soon as it's announced as a twisty-turny book, it changes the reading experience.
Expectations are so high.
And everybody's reading it going, can I trust that? Or is that going to change? I don't think I set out to do twisty-turnies, even though, as I say, I plot. I think that I write about people and humanity and our relationships. And I think relationships are rarely as reliable as we would all like them to be, even when we want them to be, even when we feel we are relatively committed to a relationship. And when I say relationship, I don't mean romantic relationships necessarily. I mean friendships. And I think the only relationship that you can absolutely put your house on is the one with your child, because even your parents, they can drive you insane. So so it's all like kind of, there's all those kind of things going on. So I think what happens with mine is I look at people, and the people I write, the characters I write, and I think, but aren't you just a bit too straightforward? Because the people I meet are more complex than that, or and I think it's the same as Lisa's just described. You want them to work that bit harder, or be just a bit more meaty
and unexpected.
Because I'm often asked, do you like writing goodies or baddies? And I'm like, again, it's not as clear cut, because a lot of good people do very bad or harsh or cruel things, and equally, quite interestingly, people that you would generally got relatively evil, relatively bad, perhaps, might have a saving grace that just kind of complicates them, and then it means you don't know what to expect from them. So I like all those layers. So I think of it as more as there's layers to discover, and it's sort of an unpeeling rather than a twist or a turn. So yeah, it is a reveal. It's not a rug pull, and it's not something. I think it's really interesting. We both pride ourselves on, I'm guessing, I'm speaking for you, but I think probably everybody that's a writer. I don't want to kind of suddenly have a thing of, and then they found a trust fund under their bed, a document with a trust fund in it, because if you have a trust fund, I promise you know about it, and I don't like the. I like to see, which is why Lisa says she leaves her breadcrumbs all the way through it, so she knows to come back to them. Because then when you get to the end of Lisa's books, you go, oh yeah, if I'd looked at that clue, that would have helped me find this answer, So I think it's just layers of intrigue and entertainment. I mean, in the end, that's what I hope I do. I hope I entertain and take people on a story, on a journey,
And you do. For sure. Do you feel like we've conditioned the reader for a twist?
Yes.
How do I fix that? I'm all ears.
I have one. I might not have one in my next book. Not the next book, because the next book's written. Okay, so 2021 book is written, so that's 2022 in the States. But 2023 in the States book isn't written, but I'm like 80% through it, and I'm thinking, maybe I won't put that last bit in just to kind of reset us. I don't know. I think all my books, even in different genres, have always had an extra push at the end. So I like that, but I think we might be a bit conditioned for twists now. And so people can feel a bit flat when they read a book and there isn't a twist.
Yes.
Shame.
No, I think it is a shame. I think it has damaged the reading experience for some readers. So that I have a book called Then She Was Gone, and I lay out exactly what's happened in the first few chapters, and that's deliberate. I want the reader to know what's happened. I want the reader to know who the bad person is. I want the reader to want to know why the bad person did the bad thing and how they did it and how it all gets resolved. But so many people who've read that book are disappointed from the outset, because they're like, oh, I was expecting to have to work a bit harder for this, and it's so no, just stick with it. I think it's a problem now, that particularly because all our books are marketed and jacketed the same way, so people see that sort of book and expect a certain kind of reading journey with it. And I think that's unfair on writers who don't necessarily. I think it's a skill set. Being able to always put a twist in a book is a skill set that some writers have and other writers don't have it, and I don't have it. The twist is either there or it's not, and I can't insert it through sheer will. So yeah, I think it makes it harder for writers who want to write a story more organically and less mechanically.
It's actually the difference, really, at its core, between a mystery and a thriller. Because in a mystery, the reader is going to discover things as the character does, and in a thriller, the reader knows, but the characters don't. And I think people don't understand the difference between, and it's a very fundamental difference between those kinds of books. And I don't know how we market it to a way that they would understand that.
It's interesting because on Just My Luck, one of the other things that people quite often review, and they'll say, I guess some of the things that were coming, but not others. And I think, actually, I'm not sure you guessed the things that were coming. I kind of wanted you to know those things.
I told you.
Because I want you to come with me, and I want you to care about the same people and be disappointed in the same people and be angry at the same people and scared for the same people. And then I might not. And, you know, and that's the fun of it. But that's okay, because I guess, again, you know, we just write the books, but then we release them, and everyone is always going to come to them differently and have
different expectations.
And they're going to every reader is going to have a different reading experience, because they'll have their own emotions and their own experiences that they're bringing to the page. And so whatever book we've written will feel differently for everybody anyhow. So
yeah, it's all valid. However they experience the book, it's completely valid. That's their experience with it. It's just sometimes for us, it's like, oh, but that's not how you're supposed to read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Adele, did you really bin part of this book?
I have twice, actually. The last two books, I binned one at 50,000 words, which, as you all know, is about halfway through. But worse still, just my luck, I binned at 80,000 words.
What do you mean by binned? Do you mean literally binned every word, or?
I kept the plot, because, as you know, I work on the plot, but I completely changed my viewpoints. I realized, again, because of the reveal, that I was being dishonest with the reader, because I was so obsessed with this idea of the reveal and what would happen. I had sort of misled, and I thought afterwards it wasn't, to use a kind of overused phrase at the moment, it wasn't very authentic. I came to the end of it thinking, well, 80% in, and thought, no, that's really dishonest. So I had to go back and give the reader a different viewpoint.
Was it the same set of characters though?
Same set of characters. So in the end, in the book we've got, the book I published, it largely comes from Lexi, who is the woman who buys the winning lottery ticket. And I think the woman we all kind of root for. But we also hear a little bit from her daughter. She has a teenage daughter with her own host of teenage problems, very adult problems, as it turns out. And also occasionally some of the other characters, some of the friends, the husband, that sort of thing. But I had originally had sort of a balance between all three female characters, and then I thought, oh, that's too female, and so I then had a kind of, every chapter was written by the 6 adults, and it became kind of dishonest. It didn't feel as real as it should be. So yeah, I binned it at 80,000, but because it was quite scary.
I bet you still made your deadline though, didn't you, Adele? She's such a goody two shoes.
I am a girly sport. In fact, my deadline is November, and I always hand in July.
Oh,
making us all look bad.
Well, really my editor has now forgotten my November deadline. She thinks it's July, and I keep thinking, no, it's November. I made a rod for my own back, so
I turned one in early once, and they didn't read it for 6 months, and I'm like, never doing that again.
No, my goodness, that's unbearable.
No.
No, because the moment when you turn it in is actually the most terrifying moment. Do you agree? I think waiting for my editor's response is literally the worst 3 days of the whole process, and mine is usually 3 days because she knows I need it after that. But it is a tough time for me.
It's terrible. Adele, you sort of touched on this earlier. I want both of you to answer this. What is the overarching theme to all of your stories?
Well, for me, I think, yes, you're right. Mine is relationships. I mean, I think we're extraordinary. There's nothing else, is there, other than humanity. And this book is about money, but it's not really about money. I couldn't care less about money. I really care about how people tick. And I like having money. Who doesn't? Money gives choices, and that's the point of the book. It gives them choices. But what are the choices they make? Are they good choices? Are they bad choices? Is it the choice to be crueler than you've ever been before? Is it the choice to be more glorious than you've ever been before? I just find it fascinating. So I think it is about how we treat each other. All my books in the end are about how we treat each other. But in these kind of thriller situations, or domestic noir situations, because again, I think it's very interesting that the people we care about most are the ones that can do the most damage, really. I think things that strangers do to is horrible. It those things are bad, and things governments can do, whatever, those things are terrible. But actually, the things that the people you care about are obviously the ones that seem to matter most. What about you, Lisa?
What about you?
Overarching themes. Was that the original question? What's the overarching? Well, it's weird because, like Adele as well, I've written across a number of genres as well. So we've kind of evolved slowly into writing the sorts of books that we're writing at the moment. But for me, I think there's always this sense of whatever book I write, I want it to be like, if you're talking to your friend on the phone, she says, "Oh my God, I've got something to tell you. You will not. I saw so and so on Tuesday night, and I've got something to tell you. But let's wait until we're face to face, and I'll tell you over dinner next week." And you just can't wait to find out what the story is, and you're wrapped, and you just want to. I think that's what I just try. That's what I'm aiming for, is to just be telling a story that someone is desperate to hear, and they don't know. They've come to it not knowing anything about what you're about to tell them. You're asking a friend, "Go on, tell me who it's about, and they say, no, wait until I see you." So it's that sort of sense of just. So the theme can be anything. I don't think in terms of big ideas or themes, or I just go in to a book with some people I'd like to write about, a house I'd like to write about, a village I'd like to write about, and a thing happening that I'd like to write about, and then make it into the juiciest, most, "Go on, tell me more," sort of story that I possibly can.
You write about place a lot as well, Lisa. I find that in your books, I really know where I am, and you take me somewhere different each time. And it might be a house or a street, and I find that really exciting because you get to be nosy.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I do it. No, when I'm walking the dog around here at night, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm staring down into people's basement windows, looking at their kitchens. I just sort of want to get a sense of what people are doing and behind their closed doors and how they live. And so for me, writing a book, it gives me the chance. So, for example, with Invisible Girl, I wanted to be Owen. That was the impetus for writing the book. Was I saw this guy in real life who just looked like a tragic virgin who probably made women feel uncomfortable when he was around them, a creepy guy. And I wanted to inhabit a creepy guy. I wanted to know what it felt like to be that guy from the inside looking out. So yes, for me, it's just an opportunity just to inhabit lots of interesting people and be somebody else and live in somebody else's house and live in the countryside or whatever it is. It's just that's nosiness
about being right. You get to live a lot of lives. I think.
It's amazing. What a gift! What a gift!
Yeah, I think
it really is.
But you don't do any research for your books. So you say, somebody asked us on Twitter, how much research do you do for your book? Do you do X, Y, Z, P, D, Q? And I was like, yes. And you were like, no. I went, what?
No, I don't. It just wastes too much time. I can't. And so I never write about anything that would need research in order for me to start writing it. And if I ever hit a point in the story where I think, God, if I'm going to write about this, I really should know about this in quite some depth. I can't. Then I think, no, I'm going to have to write about something else, because if I go into finding out about that thing in depth, then that's going to take me 2 weeks. I'm going to have to read 3 books, or I'm going to have to go off on a day trip. And I know I just want to keep writing. So I'll just change direction completely if I hit something that I don't know enough about, or blag it. I have a funny story about Claire McIntosh. So Claire McIntosh is a big writer over here in the UK, big thriller writer. And she is also a former detective and constable in the British police force. And she read one of my books in which I blagged my way through a little bit of police procedure. I thought nobody will ever notice. And she read the advanced reader's copy and immediately wrote to my editor saying, "Selena, is it too late? Is it too late?" Because my police procedure was all wrong, because I hadn't researched it, because I didn't want to. So yeah, and it was too late. So yeah, it is in fact Invisible Girl that's got the bad police procedure in it.
So interesting.
You wouldn't know, would you? Would you know, Adele? Would you know, JT?
No, but what would I do, Lisa? What would I do? I would go and research it.
You'd go and be a policewoman, Adele. You would go and be a policewoman. And then you'd be like the best policewoman that ever existed.
So Lisa and I have known each other 20 years, and our careers have gone quite a similar path, like very, you know, that even though we've both done very different things in our careers, we've both done those very different things, and yet, and we get on so well, and we know each other very, very well, but we do everything the opposite way, which I absolutely love, because I want to show there is no right or wrong way of writing a book, because I actually do start writing, but I will always go back to the research, and it really stresses me out if I think you've spotted something on an early copy of mine this time, and it really stresses me out if I haven't got something absolutely.
Oh yes, because that's another interesting thing about Adele, but not this book, but Adele's new book, is she went with the lockdown. She went with COVID. She wrote it into her newest book, and there was a scene where people were shaking hands. I was like, I'm pretty sure we'd all stopped shaking hands by that point.
And I was like, stop. So you see, I'm very detail oriented. I've in the past done work experience in florists, or I don't know, on TV channels, or because that's what my character's job was. And actually I love it, because to be honest with you, I mean, pre-lockdown, everybody's used to being in the house all the time. But when it was only writers that were in the houses all the time, I loved the fact I could use this excuse and say to somebody, oh, can I shadow you for a couple of days or a couple of weeks? And they'd say yes. And I found that really exciting. And also I involve my readers a lot. So on things like Facebook or Instagram, I will reach out and say, oh, I need someone's, in fact, I'm about to do it on midwifery. I will reach out and say, okay, because I have one experience of having a baby. I have one son who's, not a baby. And I want to know what it's like for lots of people. So I will reach out.
You can just watch One Born every minute, Adele. You don't need to talk to me. I just watch an episode of One Born every minute.
There's a lovely midwife out there, and she'll tell me her stories, and it will set something off for me, and I'll love it.
Very different approaches.
It's very different approaches, but, it works for both of us, so...
But the mountain gets summited every single time, right? It doesn't,
yes, exactly. It's a very beautiful way of putting it. Exactly right.
So we're going to open for some questions, but I have one more for you guys. You are clearly in beautiful environs at the moment, and I am curious, can you see the top of your desk?
Oh, I'm at the edge of my desk. I had to move my computer because my desk is always filthy. I tidied up. This is not how my room looks. My entire house is very minimalist and really tidy, except for my office, because I get free rein in my office, and I am not a tidy person.
Shall I show you where I am, JT?
Yes.
This is my bedroom.
Oh,
I'm not in my office at all.
Bedroom. That's awesome.
Yes. So my laptop and look. Oh, there is my dog somewhere. Can you see my dog?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, hi, baby.
Hi, baby. Yes. So my laptop's on my bed, and there's no desk in here. So there you go. I have used this corner for every Zoom I've done since the last lockdown started, and I've never shown anyone where I really am before. Exclusive.
It is. It's perfect. Wow. Look, we've really pulled the curtain back on you two.
Yeah.
McKenna's here. McKenna, tell us the questions. Let's hear some more from everybody else.
Okay, so the first one we have is, have any of you been booked for live festivals this year?
I've got one. I've got one in October in the Midlands that we're fingers crossed for. Oh, and I've actually got two. I've got one in August, the Prima Donna Festival, which is a really fun festival. You come with your tent to that one, and it's over 3 days. It's all right, Lisa. Authors don't. We get hotels. Fresh and not freezing cold, but you can come with your tent. My niece is.
I did glamping once for Camp Festival. They had an authors panel.
Together.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
Together. I was in a tent.
You
anyway.
glamped. I drove home.
Yeah, you drove home. I slept in a tent. Yes. I haven't got any British live events, but I'm fingers tightly crossed I get to come. I'm published. My new book's coming out in the States on September the 7th. I'm really hoping I can come for my tour. Really, really hoping. I really missed it last year. Coming, so fingers crossed.
How about you, JT?
I have one in August, Killer Nashville. and I was going to go to BoucherCon, but I'm not going to be able to make it because it's my anniversary. So we're going to, instead of partying with all of our friends, we're going to sneak off ourselves. But yeah, so I'm not entirely comfortable yet with the idea of an in-person event. But hopefully a few months from now, I'll change my mind.
Yeah.
Last year, I did one drive-in one last year at a place called Appledore, which is a little fishing village in the south of England, and it was idyllic. And they did a drive-in, and it was absolutely fabulous. And then I did one in my local town in the theatre that normally has a capacity of about 1,000, and they only let 100 in, so that there was so many gaps between the seats and that kind of thing. But I miss them. I didn't think I'd ever say that. When you kind of start doing so many that you go, here we go again. And now I'm like, bring them back. I
think it was nice having a year off. I think a lot of writers that I knew were ready for a bit of a break, I think. So now we're all raring to go.
Well, we'll see. We, from a bookstore perspective, we still have no plan for it. We've just scheduled one with an author who used to be the store manager. He's going to come down from Mississippi in August. And I still don't know logistically how I'm going to do it, but we're going to figure something out. But, I don't envy publicists right now having to deal with authors who want to tour and authors who don't want to tour, and different state requirements, and bookstores that can normally hold, we can get 100 people shoulder to shoulder. We get 300 people shoulder to shoulder, like inappropriately packed into the store for big events and overflow into the parking lot if needed. But most of them, 60 people, no problem. But I can't we have a limit of 6 people in the store right now. Like how are you gonna
drive through.
I know. I'm listening, and if any of my local customers are watching this and have a huge mansion with a backyard and want us to host events outside, then
actually, a drive-in, McKenna, would be a drive-in would totally work.
A drive-in one,
everybody's in their cars, authors on the stage on the theater screen. That might work.
But do you want to touch people's books to sign them? And do you wear gloves? And do they get close? It's impossible. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
The nice thing is, though, that we get to do this. Oh my gosh, this is one of the coolest things. I've had a really big tour. Adele, you're just starting. Lisa, you did one too. Being able to do this virtually, to be able to support the bookstores and still be in our offices while we're doing it, I think that's incredible. So that's part of this that I've seen as sort of a blessing.
Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it? Because as an arty kid that liked writing stories and painting pictures, I probably didn't quite give the respect to scientists and techie people that I now 150% give. What would we have done without them? The scientists that have found the vaccinations and the techie people that have kept us all connected. I have a complete, obviously I always sort of admired them, but kind of didn't have a clue. Thought, oh, that's nice, and sort of took it for granted. But now it's just, wow, how marvelous is it that we're not all the same, and that we all have different talents that we bring to the world.
Characters in the next books.
Okay, we have another question here. I really like to read different authors. Which of your books should I start with? So I guess each one of you can name your own starter introduction book.
Ooh. Well, I would always say the latest one, because you have to believe you're getting better and better and hope that's the case. It's quite funny when people go, oh, I loved Playing Away, which was I wrote 20 years ago. That was your best yet. And I'm like, oh God, I've done a terrible thing in my entire life if that was my best yet. So I would always say, go for the latest one. None of mine, not really. It doesn't matter what order you read mine in. They're all independent stories. So I'm just delighted if anybody reads any of them. But read the latest one. My publishers will be more delighted if you read the latest one. Lisa, what's your favorite out of yours?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I think if you like any of my books, then you'll probably like the rest of them. So from my perspective, I would always suggest starting with the newest one first and then going backwards, because we have evolved, Adele and I, through other genres. Then if the reader likes that and works backwards, they will then get to a point where they think, hold on, this has gone a bit romantic, I'm not sure. And then they can stop. Whereas if people sort of jump around too much, they're going to get a sort of a bit of a shock and confused. Yes. So I would say if it start with Invisible Girl, and work backwards. If you like Invisible Girl, which you might not. So,
You will. Trust me.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, JT?
Well, I've written series and standalones. So yes, definitely start with Her Dark Lies, because that's the book that's currently out. But if you like procedural series, you can start with Field of Graves, which is a female homicide lieutenant, and start there and work your way up through them as well. So I've got 2 entry points.
hey.
Yeah. All right. And I'll just do a friendly reminder that we do have signed book plates for JT's books, and we have a few copies signed still left of Invisible Girl. And of course, we have Adele's book as well.
I think we should send some signed plates to you. I think we should get it organized.
We should get it organized. I don't know, John. Every time we do one of these, our event coordinator sends me a text with what the status is, because some we don't have, and I can't keep them straight. So we now, in a necessity is the mother of invention, have rows and rows of envelopes with authors' book plates, like their name, and just rows in shelves now since the pandemic, because we've been sent so many book plates. So we have a stockpile of them. Okay, this one, we have 2 very specific questions for Lisa, but if either of you have comments, especially on the second one, certainly chime in. So Lisa, what do you have planned for Henry? And also, do you like him, or do you think he's psychotic?
Right. So what have I got planned for him? So I've written 10,000 words of there are Family Upstairs 2, as we're calling it at the moment. And at the moment, Henry he's dealing with living with Lucy and her children, and he's getting quite frustrated by having his beautiful interior design flat full of teenagers and hairy dogs and what have you. And he is planning to go to Botswana to try and find Finn. Finn, meanwhile, has got wind of the fact that people from his past were about to come to Botswana to come and track him down, and he's done a runner. But yeah, Henry's going to go to Botswana anyway. So that's where Henry's at. The other 2 points of view in the book is Lucy. So I'm following Lucy as she gets to grips with being a millionaire and buying a beautiful house for her family and starting her new life, with the shadow still of the fact that she killed someone and hasn't been caught for it yet. And then the third character is a new character. She's called Rachel, and she is Michael, her American husband that she killed, Michael's second wife. So yeah, who starts to suspect that maybe her husband wasn't killed by gangsters after all. So yeah, and in terms of whether Henry is a good guy, or I don't know. That's why I love writing Henry, because I haven't got a clue. I just think he's hugely damaged and very clever, and that's a really lethal combination in anyone. So I'm just going along with him, and we'll just see where he takes me and see how bad he really is and what his designs really are on Finn when he finally gets hold of him. Will he kill him? Will he kiss him? Well, I don't know.
So when we go out for our next lunch, I'm going to make you listen to my stories about Botswana so that you'll research Botswana.
Yes, excellent. Because I'd assumed that I would have been, not that I do research, but I thought, Botswana, I probably should go, shouldn't I? And of course, no, I haven't been able to.
It's amazing.
But yes, Adele used to live in Botswana, so she can tell me.
I will.
That solves your no research question. Just listen to Adele.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I know anything else, but we should go anywhere. Maybe that's something we should, when travel starts again. I'll go with you. We'll research it, Lisa.
Okay, and also for Lisa, but I think both of you can chime in. So how do you keep track of the breadcrumbs that you've laid out to make sure you utilize them later?
I think just because I remember putting them there, basically, and I don't read backwards while I'm writing. I don't go back. I just keep writing forwards. So I just have to remember that I've put them there and know that I need to find an explanation for them. But sometimes the breadcrumb can be something that I didn't think was going to be important as well. For example, I always talk about in Watching You, there's a murder scene at the beginning, a dead body in a kitchen and a red suede tassel in a puddle of blood, which I had mentioned earlier on in the book, just in passing as a description of someone's boots. So sometimes you can put something into the text just as a throwaway detail that is, so you didn't deliberately put it there, but you remember that it's there and you think you can use it. So yeah, I don't know, I just remember.
So isn't it? Must be working.
Yeah.
Do you not ever write notes then?
No, don't use a pen or paper ever. Nothing gets written down. Everything just gets typed straight into the document.
I think you've clearly not abused your brain cells in the
I really have. I can assure you.
I really need notes.
I really have.
So does that happen to both of you, where something that seems unimportant plays a role later on, just goes, a light bulb hits?
I write one line on each chapter to remind myself what's in that chapter. So I don't know, with Jake and Lexi, I would say the day they announced the win, and then neighbor's reaction or best friend, you know, so I would need that level of notes. But I think, like Lisa, the stuff just stays there because you live it. In fact, I feel quite sorry for my real family and real friends, because I'm quite often in my head so much and in the story so much, because you are living that story, that I realize that I'm not particularly present in the absolute real life that I'm in. So yeah, that I think if I have left a breadcrumb without being aware of it, it just stays there.
How about you, JT?
I'm a little bit more trusting of my subconscious. I don't like to plot, so I do like to have those little things that they'll get in there, and I'll be 70,000 words down the road, and it'll pop up and be like, oh my God, my brain put that in there for me. Good job, brain. You know, though I try, Adele, I try to be like you. I'm much more like Lisa, but I'm trying to be more like you.
I wouldn't bother.
And I add to it and grow the book like that, so it's not as organic. But yeah, those moments that your subconscious has laid something in and you hit it and you're just like, oh, perfect.
Yes, isn't that a wonderful thing?
Yes.
That really is. One of the few joyful moments in writing a book is when that happens.
Yeah, it is. It's so much fun for me.
Yeah.
So one of the few joyful moments of writing a book?
Well, it's not joyful, is it? Let's be honest. Oh no, see, you actually really enjoy it, don't you, Adele? Oh my goodness. What are we going to do with you? It's not joyful.
It's better than a fork in the eye.
It is better than a fork in the eye. It's the best job in the world, but it very rarely feels like joy while you're doing it. Well, it certainly doesn't.
Oh, I love it. I know
you do.
Steve, sorry. I'm not
guys.
Not be ashamed of that. It's fantastic. I mean, why else? Clearly, this is your calling, and that's what you're meant to do, and it's ours as well. But everybody assimilates that talent in a different way. And I mean,
it's without its issues. I mean, with every book, it's quite interesting. With every single book, I will get to a point. I'll go, I've lost it. I'm hopeless. I don't know why people will buy this one. This is my worst ever. This is the one that's rubbish. This will break me. This is embarrassing. And then I say it to my husband, and he goes, yeah, you said that last time. I go, I didn't. And then he'll go, you did. And then after a bit, I'll go, yeah, but I was wrong last time. And I'm right.
I think that is universal. I don't think there's a writer alive who doesn't go through that process.
Correct. So I think that, it's not, I'm not saying it's 100% a dream the whole time, but I like the puzzling of it. I enjoy it. I really do.
I love the dichotomy of the two of you, because you're in your white sweater in your bright room, and Lisa's in her dark corner in a dark sweater.
Well, what's actually happened is the sun has set while I've been talking to you. So when I first started talking to you, it was bright daylight, and now it's pretty much dark out there, and I look a bit gothic in my dark, moody corner over here. I didn't put this light on just now, and I've been trying to sort of rearrange the lighting a bit.
And the funny thing is, in real life, she's less of a worrier than I am. I'm actually a worrier at the two of us. She's the one that I kind of go, it's going to be all right, isn't it? She's like,
everything's
So for all I look all the bright and sparkly ones, secretly I'm sort of definitely the more.
You're the overthinker.
I am the overthinker. Yeah. I can always see the doomsday scenario.
Yeah.
And Lisa does not believe there's a doomsday scenario.
I don't do overthinking.
I do
underthinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to, because we have a specific question about this from Terry, but I always ask this anyway. I think it's a lovely thing that guest moderators do coming on here. It's a lot of work, I know, from doing these myself so much.
Yes.
And I definitely want to give JT a chance to talk about her new book, Her Dark Lies.
100%, Terry. That's such a good thing to do.
You guys are
Yes.
sweet. I'm just excited to be here and fangirling over you guys. That's awesome. Her Dark Lies is the story of a young, up-and-coming, large format oil painter who has met the man of her dreams, and they are getting ready to be married on his family's private island. The only problem is he has a dead wife, and they aren't allowed to talk about her. And that's kind of where things kick off, and it's JT Ellison.
Oh.
Things go dreadfully wrong very quickly.
And it has gotten all the best comparisons to Rebecca, and then there were none and
I was
more.
going to say
so.
Rebecca. I was going to say that sounds.
It is very homage to our partners, our wonderful female thriller authors who really kind of plowed this path for us, and it is. It's got a little bit of them. It's got some talented Mr. Ripley. You know, they're just little elements from some of my favorite stories that I braided into and created this new world.
Okay,
it's
so
a great concept, that, because if there is a wife before you or anyone before you, you can't help but obsessing, and you just need to hear it. You just need to hear what it is and deal with it. If she was the love of his life, fine. If he couldn't bear her because she picked her toenails, fine. You just need to hear it. But if they won't tell you, it's just brilliant. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, she's in like, my God, you know, did she like pizza? Does she have split ends? I mean, nothing. She knows nothing but what she can find. That, of course, obsessions are born when you get too curious about things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is going to be a quick question. Oh, not this one. Scratch that. Don't look at that. This is going to be the quick question.
So much.
Can you three remind us of the title and publication date, UK and US, of your next book? Because I know Kathy reads a lot of British editions, so that's why she's asking. Let's start with you, Adele.
Okay, so Just My Luck is out today in the States, which is fantastic. And then the next one after that is called Both of You. And if you want, you can get that on May the 27th in the UK. So if you do read British editions, May the 27th, so not long now.
And I've read it and it's amazing. So
she's very biased and very lovely, but go with her.
Listen
to her.
How about you, Lisa?
God, I look so scary. Yes.
Oh,
you look lovely.
You look great.
So this is the UK cover for my new book, which comes out. It's called The Night She Disappeared, in case anybody's not seeing this visually. And it comes out in the UK on July the 20th, or is it the 22nd? 22nd, and comes out in America and Canada on September the 7th. That's called The Night She Disappeared.
I can't wait to read it. Please, can I?
Me too.
Yes. Oh, you should.
Me too.
Yeah. They're out now. They should be winging their way to you very soon, Adele. Ask Johnny.
All right, and JT.
And so Her Dark Lies just came out last month, and the next thing I have coming out is a short story in an anthology at the end of the year that is all female thriller authors, and it is my story is about a thwarted spy. So it's called Louche 49, but that's not the name of the anthology, but the story is called Louche 49.
Excellent. Okay, this one is the longer one that I accidentally put up. Do you think Zoom and Facebook Live events and such will have a continued place for authors in the future? Same order, Adele.
Well, I'd say quick answer, yes. Yes, they have a place because we are reaching so many people that didn't get to go to events. I always say, until I actually became an author, I'd never met an author because I didn't live in the kind of place that authors visited, or and I just didn't know how to get to that part of the world and the culture. And I think it's really amazing that these events mean that more or less everybody can get to them. So I think there will always be a continued place. But I think, as we mentioned a little bit beforehand as well, we're also quite keen to see real people. So yeah, I think there's room for both things.
I do worry. I'm just thinking about that now. I'm worrying now that authors are going to become completely overwhelmed, because before, if your publicist was invited, you were invited via your publicist to an event, and then another one the following night, they think, well, you're not going to be able to do both of those because you're. And now, we'll be doing probably twice as many events. We'll be doing the real life ones and then the Zoom ones, which is amazing. And for all the reasons Adele was just saying, it's absolutely amazing to be able to reach so many people who wouldn't normally go to a bookshop to meet an author. But on the other hand, I do wonder how overwhelming it might become once we're allowed to do real life events as well. We shall see.
As well, because otherwise, I mean, this is so fabulous because it is all three of us. So there's a lot of different discussion and different viewpoints. But if it's just the same author saying the same talk for every single Zoom, then what's the point? Because you just could look at an old Zoom, last year's Zoom.
Exactly. Yes.
So I think there needs a level of energy. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, this is just as draining as getting on a plane, flying to an event, doing the event, going back home. I mean, it does take a lot of energy, I think, because we're seeing ourselves and everybody else. So part of your brain is kind of focused on, oh my God, my hands are moving too much, you know, that kind of thing.
And you have to bring out your extrovert as well.
Right. You got to turn it on. I'm an introvert, so
I think we all
turn it on. But that said, one of the things that I've loved about the pandemic is being able to hear other authors who I love and admire talk about their work and talk together. And these kinds of panel discussions, I think, are invaluable for up and coming writers and for readers to actually, it's like being able to go to the conferences that we used to go to and sit in on the panels with your favorite authors. Being able to have that kind of access on a regular basis is super. I agree, though, with Lisa that there has to be some boundary. You know, here is your tour, and that's your tour, right? Because that's what we used to do, just tour for a month and then maybe go to a conference here or there. It's really easy to say yes to these and have them cascade into 45 events, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the other thing I do miss, do you remember where you'd like catch someone's eye at the, I don't know, usually at the front, and you knew they were having a really good time, and it was quite the confidence boost because you knew you were on the right track. And because that's the thing with these events, you don't know how many people actually are listening or have tuned out or got bored of you or whatever. You don't know when you're reaching people. And actually it can be a fairly isolated job anyhow at the best of times. So I think that is the sort of side that is quite lovely of a real live event. But I actually am quite strict. I know for all I'm in the light room at the moment and I'm the giggly smiley one. We've pretended during this. I'm actually quite strict and I only do events around launches. I am quite good at saying no and compartmentalizing my time because I think you can get overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I could talk about it for an hour because as from a bookseller perspective, there's many, many, many pros and many, many cons. I will say I get the unenviable joy of seeing how many people are watching live. And I can watch when I ask a question and it's not as good a question or the author's not as engaging and it goes down or it goes up. And so it's very nerve-wracking. It's worse. It's worse not knowing. I mean, it's better not knowing than seeing the combined total of people go, 62, 49, 65. Like,
was it something I said?
Yeah. Or all of a sudden you're talking and you're like, oh my God, there's 325 people watching. Like, let me fix my hair.
Authors don't want to see that. They do not want to see
I assure you, as the host for this, all the data that I have, you don't want. Anyway. Let's see. So we have some lovely comments about people who do really enjoy them. And I know that we have a lot of people who tune in regularly, and it's been nice for us because we've developed kind of regular customers that we see on here and we feel like we know that we didn't before. So that's nice. Let's see. We're going to end with this last question here. Do either of you consult friends and family while you're writing to test the story, or do you keep it very quiet until published?
Well, I do. I read mine aloud to my husband. We could not be watching. I do. I read them aloud to my husband at 2 or 3 stages. So 50% of the way through, 80% of the way through, which is when the twice I've dumped them, and then right at the end, because he's the best test ever. He is literally the most honest human being on the planet.
Can I just ask you quickly, why don't you just give it to him to read to himself? Why do you read it out to him?
I like to see his reaction, because I think if you read it afterwards, he'd just go to me, oh, it's great.
Right.
He's kind. But if I'm reading it to him, I can see him kind of going, oh, nothing, right, boring, edit. Or he will pick me up on something, and he's very good on detail as well. So he'll pick me up and kind of go, she wasn't in the car long enough to make that journey, or how could that have all happened at that time? Or and also, and he'll never thank me for saying this, but it is true, he's very emotional, and he does cry. I can make him cry. And it's quite the test now to see if I've hit it, or if he's genuinely bothered, you know. But I wouldn't get that if he read it, because he would just take it away and be very stereotypically manly about it, that he would just read it quite silently and come back and go, yeah, great. So I need more than that of him. But yeah, read it aloud. I'm guessing, Lisa, that's not your approach.
No, I can't. I'm just trying to picture such a thing happening in my house, and it's just, I mean, my husband would, because he's nice, but no. The only person I don't talk through ideas with anyone. I just sit and write it, but I do. So I start writing my books in springtime. So around about late February, I normally start a book. And then when the schools break up for the summer holidays, I will give my editor what I've got up to that point, and then get her feedback. So that when the schools go back in September, I'm sort of ready to finish the book, having had a bit of feedback from her. But that's it. That's the only input that anybody else has into my work before it's complete. What about you, JT?
So when he hears about it, so it's not reading it aloud, but he hears every night. It's like, okay, this happened. Now this happened. What do I do? You know, this didn't work, blah, blah, blah. My dad and my mom actually do read. My dad's one of my first readers. He gets things raw. And he's a really good reader. He's a big reader, and he can tell me, hey, you've got a timeline issue, you know, stuff like that. He's wonderful with that. And then I've got another couple of friends who, if I'm stuck on something, I'll send them a chapter and be like, point of view's wrong, right? And they'll be like, yeah. You're like, okay, what do I do? And they're like, hell if I know.
You're the writer.
It's not much help, but you know, sometimes I don't like to send untested material out into the world, for sure.
That's interesting that you said you send them and your point of view is wrong, because I think you do always know.
Yeah, right. You just need that affirmation of, you know, we should trust ourselves. At this point in our careers, we've written enough books that we just need to trust. We know that something's wrong. But sometimes it's good to have somebody else say, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, lots of comments about how much people have enjoyed this group of authors. I have to agree, if not for just watching Lisa's reaction to Adele's statements. Oh God, it's so great to just, yeah. You know, it's just great because you can tell that it's a conversation between friends, and those are the most fun for us to sit back and watch. So a special thank you to JT for interviewing and joining us today. Amazing. You did a wonderful job, and it's much appreciated. Congratulations to the Pub Day, Adele Parks, for your new book. Go enjoy your champagne. And Lisa, it's as always a treat to talk with you. Hopefully we will host you for a drive-in in September. We'll see. We'll figure something out.
If that actually happened, that would be so awesome, wouldn't it?
Oh my goodness. We're gonna figure something out. So anyway, I'll keep my fingers crossed also. But thank you all again, and thank you all for watching. As I said, we'll be back on here tonight and 5 more times this week. So make sure to check our schedule for all the other author pairings. Everyone, have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much. It's been lovely.
Of course. Bye.